everyone, this is Sarah and this is my Real Food Kitchen. And if you've watched my two previous videos, this is all going to kind of come together in this one. Basically, I wanted you to know how to make a compound butter because that can be used in all kinds of ways. I wanted you to know how to make preserved lemons, same thing, many uses. But I'm putting them together today to dress a steak, and I'm using the preserved lemons in something called a Gremolata. And a Gremolata is traditionally simply parsley, lemon zest, and salt. And it's traditionally the kind of, what would you call it, a condiment that goes on the Italian dish ossobuco, which is a veal dish. But it's so delicious that it's good on many things. I like to use it on steak. A Gremolata is delicious on a pork chop, a piece of chicken. Put it in your garlic toast. Throw it on salads. It's very intensely flavored. It's very fresh with the lemon and the herbs, and is just delicious. Especially here in the winter, I feel like I need something to brighten up my food. Here being Minnesota, short growing season. So today I'm going to make a Gremolata, but I am changing. I am not using the traditional mixture, which you are free to do. There's any number of combinations. Today I'm going to be using cilantro, some basil, and Italian parsley. I personally think Italian parsley is nicer in a Gremolata than the curly kind, just because that's kind of bulky. So what you need first are the herbs, and I like to clean them. Herbs, you know, they're pretty sandy a lot of times, and I think that if you get a little bit of sand in a salad or anything that you're eating, it just wrecks everything for me. So I like to float my herbs in cold water, and then I spread them out on a towel until they are almost dry but have a little bit of moisture on them, and then I fold them up, and this happens to be an old pillowcase. It works great. And then I loosely fold them like this, and they stay good like that for a long time. Eventually they'll actually even dry in there, and then you can just use them dry. Anyway, I've got my herbs and they've already been plucked. Pluck them, you know, right down to the leaf. The stems I like to use in my vegetable stock, so I save all of that kind of stuff. It doesn't get wasted, but it doesn't go in the herb mix. So you need a sharp knife, very sharp. I would never use something like a food processor to chop an herb. Herbs get bruised very easily, so your knife needs to be good and sharp, and a food processor is just gonna like mash it and tear it to pieces. And then the other thing that I think personally is that people over chop their herbs. I like them just about like that, and those are done. And with my basil, I like to kind of stack it up and cut strips of it, gather it up, and then it's nicely chopped, but it's not bruised. When it's bruised, it gets bitter. Any herb will get bitter if you bruise it. Those are ready. And then what I'm using today, instead of the traditional lemon zest, is preserved lemon. And if you watched the previous video, you know how to preserve your own lemon. And if you haven't got them ready, you can just buy some. The correct way to use a preserved lemon is you actually scoop out the inside. So you get rid of the membrane, the seeds, and all of that. And it's the rind that you use. I've already got some chopped up over here. I'm going to mince it just a little bit finer. And that's ready to go. And then garlic. This is this happens to be half of a gigantic clove of garlic. 1 clove of garlic is plenty. And personally, I don't use a garlic press, same sort of thing. I think that it crushes it and bruises it. And I prefer to have them in these tiny, tiny little minced pieces. Great. That is enough. So now we're going to take our ingredients and basically combine them. We're going to add some salt, about a teaspoon. That's enough. We're going to add some freshly cracked pepper. It's probably about a teaspoon. And that's it. It's done. And now what I'm going to do is combine the Gremolata and the compound butter, and I'm going to serve it on a steak, which will be ready in a moment. All right, so the steak is done and is resting. And while it's resting, I thought I would show you a little trick for how I clean my cutting board. Since I've been using all of these lemons today and have the salt out, that's what I use to clean my cutting board. I just pour some kosher salt because it's cheap. I have all kinds of fancy salts. I don't want to use those. And then I just take the lemon pieces that are left over from making the preserved lemons that I made in another video. And I just use the remaining juice and acid that's in the lemon, combines with the salt, and makes this perfect kind of scrubbing, sanitizing solution that has no chemicals in it and will not flavor my board in any way. So I don't ever use like a dishcloth with dish soap on my cutting board. This is my method of cleaning my board. And this cutting board it's a good 15 years old, and it's in perfect condition still. So I think that has something to do with it. All right. So if I were doing this at home, I would do this even more thoroughly, but I want to show you how I gather this all up. I just take a bench knife. I would have left this sit here for maybe 15 minutes. I take a bench knife. And clear it all away. That's it. All right, so now this is all going to come beautifully full circle as I dress my steak, which personally I like medium rare, but that doesn't factor in. So remember we put the compound butter in the freezer, and that was actually, in real life, that was only half an hour ago or so. So I'm going to lop off a nice, generous chunk, and that goes on my steak, and a nice handful of the Gremolata, and yum. I hope you enjoyed it, and I just want to reiterate that all of these components are so versatile. In speaking of the Gremolata, if you, for example, were making some Mexican food, the herb could be cilantro, the citrus could be lime, the salt could be smoked salt, over a taco or something. Yum. Thanks.